morning, dear listeners and viewers. It's an era of change at the University of Boya following the appointment of newly installed directors of institutions by the rector of the university, Professor Horace Ngomo Manga. In this edition of the news, we're filing details directly from Boya. Also, the 2024 Summer Olympic Games officially debuts today in Paris, capital city of France, with President Paul Biya and other head of states who will be attending the official opening ceremony. United States politics is also on our agenda this morning with newly endorsed Democratic candidate and the Vice President of the U.S., Kamala Harris, who says there's hopeful movement towards an Israel-Hamas ceasefire, plus former President Barack Obama is also expected to endorse Vice President Harris in the days ahead. These are the headlines, and the development of the news shall be yours in a jiffy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the morning news on Cam1 Radio. The frequency, of course, is 99.5 FM, and this is the People's Radio. Newly appointed directors of the University of Boya have been called upon to uphold the institution's legacy of quality education and excellence. The Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Horace Ngomo Manga, made appeal while installing them into functions yesterday. The newly installed Professor Lucy Manzi Ayamba, the pioneer director of the Higher Teachers Training College in Boya, Fosong Michael Afoze, emerged director of the Department of Student Affairs, and Professor Lukong Cornelius Fai, director of the College of Technology. Now, take a listen to Professor Horace Ngomo Manga, who urged them to be diligent in their respective duties and functions.
It was for them to continue in the legacy that has been established for the other two colleges, and to remind the director of the HTTC of the high expectation of the public, not just in the university community or in Boya, in the region, but nationwide. We are asking them to maintain the label of the University of Boya. And what is the label? The label is excellence in academics. You know, the University of Boya is well known for that, and we want Madam the Director to transpose, to allow HTTH, the Higher Teachers Training College, to share in that excellence, to ensure that everything is put in place.
In the same light, the newly appointed pioneer director of the Higher Teachers Training College of Boya, Professor Lucy Manzi Ayamba, says she will take this opportunity to lead, inspire, and take the institution to greater heights, fully embracing her duty. Take a listen to her in the following excerpt.
I'm very humbled. I thank the head of state, President Paul Biya, the Prime Minister, head of government, and the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, for this opportunity to serve my nation, Cameroon, as the director of HTTC. Starting a new school is not easy. You know, having a good foundation is not cheap. Can't make any promises, but we will do our best. A team will be formed to start the new Higher Teachers Training College at the University of Boya, and we are going to work together as a team to actually live up to the expectations and do what is actually expected of us. I want to think the population is expecting much, and the fact that I was called up into this function is an indication that we as a team need to work very hard because we will be training teachers who are going to mold youths. So we have to be disciplined. We have to instill values in the teachers that they will pass on to the youths and train them the way we will be proud of these children.
The Prime Minister and the Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, chaired the cabinet meeting for the month of July at the Star Building in Yaoundé yesterday. Deliberations focused on the prolonged and unjustified absences of many state employees from their duty posts, a practice which is reported to undermine the performance of public administrations and the members of cabinet. Examined the scope of the practice, reasons for its persistence, and identified measures to address the growing phenomenon. The decision takers at the taken at the cabinet meeting were that control measures will be tightened and the sanctions meted on the recalcitrant employees. We talk something completely different in this edition of the news. The Cameroon Development Corporation (CDC) in its acronym is still struggling to regain the leading position as the country's frontline exporter of agricultural produce, especially banana, after the setback caused by the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions, respectively. The conflict, which has spanned over 7 years, reduced the intensity of activities in virtually all CDC plantations and opened the way for other producers, especially from Europe, to invade the local banana production sector. Some medical practitioners in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, have expressed a concern over the alarming number of teenagers getting pregnant. The concern follows data from a recent study in some hospitals in the nation's capital, which revealed that some 76 cases of teenage pregnancies were recorded in 2022. Government has restated its commitment to prioritize the well-being of the country's citizens in 2025. The commitment was re-echoed as the entire state apparatus converged on Yaoundé to begin brainstorming on how the 2025 state budget could bring much needed relief and make life better for Cameroonians in 2025. The Minister of Art and Culture, Bidou Compact, has reiterated government's commitment to curb the illicit exploitation and the transfer of cultural artifacts. This was during an audience he granted to a visiting delegation from the United States recently. Economic experts and other key actors in the investment chain in the country have lauded the strategic role of the Investment Promotion Agency (IPA), better known by its French acronym API, in contributing to national development and improving the livelihoods of citizens. The feats recorded, the experts stated, it's through IPA's effort is marketing Cameroon across the globe as a lucrative investment destination in the continent. And we talk sports in this edition of the news. The 2024 Summer Olympic Games officially kicks off today in Paris, capital city of France, with President Paul Biya and other heads of states who will attend the official ceremony. A couple of world leaders also converged yesterday to discuss the sustainable development virtues of sports, which happens to be one of the side attractions of the Olympic Games launched by the French President Emmanuel Macron and the President of the International Olympics Committee, Thomas Bach. The First Ladies are also reported to have accompanied their spouses, including Mrs. Chantal Biya, who attended a reception at the Élysée Palace yesterday in courtesy of the French First Lady, Brigitte Macron. We immediately dive to our international page. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called protesters Iran's useful idiots, in quotes, in a speech to Congress. At least 5 people were arrested in demonstrations at the U.S. Capitol following this particular speech. Also, 10 migrants drowned in the flooded river near Panama's coastal community of Carreto while crossing the Darien Gap. Panama's National Border Services have also said in a statement. Insurers have begun calculating the financial damage caused by last week's devastating CrowdStrike software glitch that crashed computers, cancelled flights, and disrupted hospitals all around the globe. And the picture isn't pretty, as reported by many other international state media corporations. President Joe Biden says he left the 2024 race to help protect democracy by allowing the new generation to step up. During a national address, President Joe Biden explained his decision to pass the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris. As a political commentator, Van Jones reacted to this particular address by the President of the United States of America. And people looking for love with an Olympic athlete could have a difficult time this year. The LGBTQ dating app has disabled some of its location sharing features to protect athletes from harassment or prosecution. Still on American politics, former President Obama is expected to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris soon, and his team has been in touch with her campaign Our sources have been talking about this particular issue. Vice President Kamala Harris shared details from her conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday, telling reporters there has been hopeful movement in the negotiations to secure a ceasefire on hostage deal that would mark an end of war between Israel and Hamas, which has dragged on for more than 9 months. Harris said the ceasefire deal would be split into two phases, the first of which would involve a full ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israeli military forces from population centers in Gaza, while the second phase would entail Israel's military withdrawing from Gaza entirely. The vice president also said Israel has a right to defend itself, but noted how it does so matters. Harris expressed concern for Israeli American hostages who remain captive in Gaza and said she raised her concern with Netanyahu's about the deaths of innocent civilians in Gaza and the more than 2.5 million people within the region who are experiencing food insecurity. The vice president said she remains committed to a path forward that can lead to a two-state solution, which is proposed solution for ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict via the establishment of two states for Jewish people and Palestinians respectively. Still on politics, Jennifer Aniston, the renowned actress in the United States, has criticized Donald Trump's vice president candidate, J.D. Vance, for his comments calling Democrats a bunch of childless cat ladies with miserable lives. And it is with that note from Jennifer Aniston that we end this edition of the news today on Cam One Radio and the television. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your keen attention and keep on listening to more programs on this network. Just to reiterate that the frequency of this network is 99.5 FM and this is the People's Radio. For presentation, I am Ekome Charles Abane. See you next week, same time, same place on this particular network.